The rain had been falling steadily all afternoon, tapping a sorrowful rhythm against the windows of the little bakery on the corner. Inside, a man hunched over a worn leather wallet, counting coins with trembling fingers. He could feel the weight of every single one pressing down on him, not just in his hand, but in his chest. Today was his daughter Emma's 7th birthday, and for the life of him, he couldn't afford even a small cake. He had promised her a celebration, a moment of magic in the middle of their quiet, struggling life, but reality had a way of breaking promises quietly, one coin at a time. Hey friends, before we dive deeper, I just want to know, where are you watching from today? If you've ever felt like life was stacking challenges against you, hit that like button, leave a comment, share this story with someone who might need a little hope, and don't forget to subscribe for more heartfelt stories. Tom wiped a bead of sweat from his brow and looked at the plain grocery store cake he could barely afford. It wasn't much, just a few candles perched crookedly on a thin layer of icing, but Emma's eyes, full of wonder and expectation, deserved something better. He sighed and stepped outside, the drizzle soaking his jacket. He wanted to make this day special for her, and yet, the money wasn't there. Every shift at the factory, every late night, every skipped meal had brought him here, and it still wasn't enough. As he wandered the streets, lost in thought, he found himself back at the bakery, drawn to the warm light spilling onto the wet pavement. The bell above the door jingled as he stepped inside, and for a moment, he felt like a child again, stepping into a place where the world smelled sweet and safe. Behind the counter stood a woman in her mid-30s, flour dusting her apron, eyes that seemed to notice more than just customers, they saw people. She greeted him with a gentle smile. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice soft, like sunlight filtering through the clouds. Tom hesitated, swallowing the lump in his throat. I wanted to buy a cake for my daughter's birthday," he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "But I don't have enough." The baker studied him for a long moment, then nodded. She reached under the counter and pulled out a small, perfectly decorated cake, its icing a swirl of pastel colors, the candle sparkling as if lit by magic. "This one's on the house," she said, placing it carefully in a box. "Happy birthday to your little girl." Tom froze. Words failed him. The gratitude, the relief, the surprise, all collided into a single, raw emotion he couldn't name. He tried to pay, tried to protest, but she only shook her head. "Consider it a gift, and maybe a little reminder that kindness still exists in the world." He carried the cake home like it was made of gold, each step lighter than the last. When he opened the door, Emma's eyes widened, sparkling brighter than any candle. "Daddy! You got a cake," she squealed, running into his arms. He held her tight, tears threatening to fall, realizing that this simple act of kindness had turned a day of despair into one of joy, but the story didn't end there. Over the following weeks, Tom found himself returning to the bakery, sometimes for ingredients, sometimes just to talk. The baker, whose name was Lily, had a warmth about her that made the world feel less heavy. They laughed over shared coffee, swapped stories of childhood, and slowly, a friendship blossomed into something deeper. What had begun as a simple act of generosity had opened the door to a second chance, not just for a birthday, but for a life that Tom had begun to believe could be beautiful again. On one quiet evening, as Emma slept soundly clutching her favorite stuffed bear, Tom and Lily sat in the bakery after hours, sharing dreams and fears that neither had dared to voice before. "You know," Tom said, glancing at her with a mixture of awe and affection, "I thought today was going to be just another disappointment. But you turned it into the best day of our lives." Lily smiled, brushing flour from her hands. "Sometimes all it takes is a little faith in people," she said softly. "And a little courage to show kindness, even when it costs nothing." In that moment, Tom realized that life wasn't about having enough money or avoiding hardship. It was about the small, human connections that remind you you're not alone. The cake had been a gift, yes, but the real gift was hope. The hope that love could arrive when you least expected it, that joy could sneak back into your life through the simplest acts, and that even a single dad, struggling under the weight of the world, could find a second chance at happiness. And so, as the morning light spilled over the bakery window, and Emma ran to greet them with laughter that sounded like music, Tom knew one thing for certain: some days, life hands you more than you ever dreamed. A cake, a friend, and the promise of love waiting patiently just around the corner.